A millionaire found a little girl abandoned in a park. What she said broke his heart. Thunder crackled across the darkened sky as Marcus Reynolds pulled his coat tighter, quickening his pace through Central Park. The former family court judge had always found solace in these evening walks, even in the worst weather. But tonight was different. Through the curtain of rain, his eyes caught a peculiar movement near the old playground, a small figure huddled on a bench, desperately trying to shield something in her arms. Drawing closer, Marcus saw her, a little girl, no more than 5, her blonde hair matted against her face, clothes soaked through. In her arms, she cradled a whimpering puppy, wrapped in what appeared to be her own jacket. Her small body shivered violently, but she seemed more concerned with keeping the injured animal warm than herself. "Are you lost, sweetheart?" Marcus called out softly, careful not to frighten her. The girl looked up, revealing eyes that carried a depth of sadness no child should know. Her response, barely a whisper, would haunt him forever. "I'm not lost, sir. I was left here. Mommy said she'd come back, but she said that yesterday too. I don't have anyone anymore, except Max." She glanced down at the puppy. He was hurt and alone, just like me. In that moment, as lightning illuminated her tear-stained face, Marcus Reynolds felt something he hadn't experienced since losing his own family 3 years ago, a profound call to action that would change not only his life but expose a darkness lurking beneath their city's polished surface. Before diving into this touching story, take a moment to share your location in the comments below. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe to join our growing community of storytellers. Marcus Reynolds stood at his office window, gazing at the Manhattan skyline as he packed the last remnants of his judicial career into a cardboard box. After 15 years serving as a family court judge, his reputation for unwavering integrity had earned him both powerful allies and dangerous enemies. The brass nameplate on his desk, now tarnished with age, reflected a career dedicated to protecting society's most vulnerable, its children. At 53, Marcus carried himself with the dignified bearing of a man who had seen both triumph and tragedy in equal measure. His silver-streaked dark hair and deep-set blue eyes spoke of wisdom earned through experience, while the slight stoop in his shoulders betrayed the weight of countless difficult decisions made from behind the bench. 3 years ago, his world had shattered when his wife Catherine and 12-year-old daughter Lily were killed by a drunk driver, a wealthy businessman whose connections had initially threatened to bury the case. Marcus's relentless pursuit of justice had ultimately prevailed, but the victory left him hollow. The 5-bedroom townhouse on the Upper East Side, once filled with Lily's laughter and Catherine's warmth, now echoed with emptiness. His colleagues had watched with concern as he threw himself into his work, taking on the most challenging cases and working late into the night. Marcus became known for his thorough investigation of each case, particularly those involving children from disadvantaged backgrounds. He developed a reputation for being the one judge corrupt officials couldn't intimidate or bribe. The turning point in his career came 6 months ago when he uncovered evidence of systematic corruption in the city's foster care system. Children were being placed with unqualified families who received kickbacks from local officials. His investigation led to several high-profile arrests, but it also painted a target on his back. Anonymous threats began appearing on his desk. His car was vandalized. Yet Marcus persisted, driven by the memory of his daughter and a deep-seated belief that every child deserved protection. His retirement wasn't really retirement at all, it was a strategic withdrawal. By stepping down from the bench, he gained the freedom to investigate without institutional constraints. His substantial inheritance from Catherine's family, combined with smart investments, had left him financially independent. He had transformed his family's charitable foundation into a powerful tool for child advocacy, though few knew the extent of his behind-the-scenes work. Living alone in his townhouse, Marcus maintained a simple routine: morning runs in Central Park, meetings with trusted contacts, and evening walks that helped clear his mind. His home office had become a command center of sorts, walls covered with news clippings and case files that painted a disturbing picture of institutional corruption. His only regular visitor was Detective Laura Thompson, one of the few honest cops he trusted, who shared his commitment to exposing the truth. The loss of his family had left him with an acute sensitivity to children in distress. He couldn't walk past a playground without remembering Lily's favorite swing, couldn't hear a child's laugh without feeling the phantom pain of memories. Yet rather than bitter him, this pain had crystallized into purpose. His wealth, influence, and legal expertise had become tools in a greater mission. As he placed the last item in his box, a family photo taken at Lily's last birthday, Marcus reflected on the path that had led him here. He had seen too many children failed by the system, too many cases where justice was sold to the highest bidder. His retirement wasn't an end, but a beginning. Free from the constraints of his judicial role, he could finally pursue the truth wherever it led, regardless of who it might implicate. Walking out of his chambers for the last time, Marcus nodded to his colleagues but didn't linger for goodbyes. He had already begun preparing for his next phase, establishing a network of trusted allies and gathering evidence that would expose the corruption rotting the heart of the city's child welfare system. What he didn't know, as he drove home through the gathering storm, was that fate was about to hand him a case that would test every resource, every connection, and every ounce of determination he possessed. Emily Parker's world had always been defined by uncertainty. At 5 years old, she possessed the wariness of someone much older, her green eyes carrying a haunting mixture of innocence and premature wisdom. Her small frame, thin but not quite undernourished, spoke of a child who had learned to survive rather than thrive. Born to Sarah Parker, a waitress working 3 jobs to make ends meet, Emily's early years were spent in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in Queens. Her mother, despite the grinding poverty and exhaustion, had filled their tiny home with love and creativity. They made up stories about princess warriors, drew pictures on recycled paper, and danced to music from a second-hand radio. Sarah had always promised Emily they would have their forever home someday, even as bills piled up and opportunities dwindled. The first fracture in their world came when Sarah lost her primary job at the diner. Unable to maintain their apartment, they entered the shelter system, bouncing between temporary accommodations. Emily learned to pack her few belongings quickly, to sleep in strange places, and to stay quiet when adults argued. Her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hoppy, became her constant companion and confidant, its worn fur absorbing countless silent tears. In the foster care system, Emily experienced the darker side of humanity. Her first placement lasted 3 months before the family decided she was too quiet. The second home seemed better until she discovered her foster siblings stealing her mother's letters. The third placement ended abruptly when she reported her foster father's inappropriate behavior to a teacher, a complaint that mysteriously vanished from official records. Through it all, Sarah tried desperately to maintain contact, showing up at supervised visits with small gifts and big dreams. Emily treasured each moment, memorizing the smell of her mother's drugstore perfume and the sound of her laugh. But as months passed, the visits became less frequent. Sarah's eyes grew more haunted, her promises more desperate. Emily sensed something was wrong but couldn't understand what made her strong, loving mother so afraid. The night everything changed, Sarah had hurriedly dressed Emily in all the clothes she could layer, tucking extra socks and her daughter's birth certificate into Mr. Hoppy's worn stuffing. They took an erratic path through the city, switching subway lines multiple times. Emily noticed her mother constantly looking over her shoulder, clutching her hand too tightly. In Central Park, Sarah had knelt before her daughter, tears streaming down her face. "Remember how brave your warrior princesses are," she whispered. "You need to be just as brave now. Stay here by this playground. Someone good will find you. Don't tell anyone about Mummy's special friends or the men who watch our house. Promise me." Baby, her last kiss felt like goodbye, though Emily didn't understand why. That was yesterday. Emily had stayed on the bench, watching families come and go, fighting the urge to run after each dark-haired woman who resembled her mother. When it started raining, she almost left, but Sarah's words kept her rooted to the spot. Then she heard the whimper. Under the slide, she found a small puppy, limping and shivering. Without hesitation, Emily removed her outer jacket, one of the layers her mother had insisted on, and wrapped it around the trembling animal. "I'll protect you," she whispered, channeling her inner warrior princess. "We can be alone together." Hours passed. The park emptied. Storm clouds gathered. Still, Emily waited, dividing her last granola bar between herself and her new friend. She had named him Max, after the brave police dog in her favorite library book. As thunder began to rumble, she huddled closer to Max, her small body shielding him from the rain, while her mind raced with questions she was too afraid to answer. What Emily couldn't know was that her mother's desperate actions were part of a larger, darker story. She couldn't understand that Sarah's strange behavior and sudden disappearance were linked to a criminal network that had ensnared them both. She only knew that her world had shrunk to this moment: a cold bench, a wounded puppy, and the fading hope that anyone would prove her mother right about good people still existing in their harsh world. As lightning split the sky, Emily clutched Max closer, whispering one of her mother's favorite sayings, "Brave girls don't cry." But in the growing darkness, with rain masking her tears, she allowed herself to be just a scared little girl, waiting for the help her mother had promised would come. Sarah Parker's absence loomed larger than her presence in the story that was about to unfold. At 32, she had once been a woman of vibrant dreams, her dark hair and green eyes so like Emily's, often lighting up with plans for their future. A former nursing student forced to drop out when her parents died, Sarah had maintained her compassionate nature despite life's hardships. What no one knew was that her involvement with a local charity had inadvertently connected her to a human trafficking ring masquerading as a legitimate organization. Her desperate attempt to protect Emily came after discovering the truth about the special opportunities they offered struggling single mothers. Oh. Detective Laura Thompson stood out in the 15th precinct, not just for being one of the few female detectives, but for her unshakable moral compass. At 45, her athletic build and sharp brown eyes reflected her background as a former Marine. She had worked with Marcus on several cases during his judicial tenure, building a reputation for thorough investigation and unwavering integrity. Laura carried the weight of numerous unsolved missing persons cases, suspecting they were connected but lacking the evidence to prove it. Her own daughter's battle with addiction had given her a personal stake in protecting vulnerable families. District Attorney James Wilson projected an image of polished professionalism that masked a calculating mind. His tailored suits and carefully maintained silver hair created an appearance of trustworthiness that had helped him win 3 elections. At 58, he had built a network of influential connections while maintaining a public image of tough-on-crime conservatism. Few suspected that his charitable foundation, which supposedly helped at-risk youth, served as a front for more sinister operations. Catherine Brooks, the social worker assigned to Emily's case, embodied the complexities of working within a broken system. Her decade of experience had left her simultaneously hopeful and cynical, fighting bureaucracy while trying to maintain her ideals. At 38, she had developed an intuition for identifying both genuine caregivers and potential abusers. Her cramped office contained files on hundreds of children, each representing a story of systemic failure she struggled to prevent. Dr. Michael Bennett, head of pediatric trauma at Mount Sinai Hospital, would become crucial to understanding Emily's past and healing her future. His gentle demeanor and patient approach to traumatized children had earned him respect throughout the medical community. At 49, he had seen countless cases of abuse and neglect, developing a sixth sense for distinguishing accident from intention. Officer Robert Bobby Martinez patrolled Central Park's precinct with a compassion rare among veteran cops. At 35, he had resisted the cynicism that often came with the job, maintaining his belief in protecting the vulnerable. His own background in the foster system gave him unique insight into cases involving displaced children. Amanda Chen, an investigative journalist for the New York Times, had been tracking patterns of disappearances among single mothers for months. Her tenacity and network of sources made her both valuable and dangerous to those with secrets to hide. At 34, she had already earned a Pulitzer nomination for exposing corruption in city housing contracts. Rebecca Walsh served as Marcus's closest confidante on the family court bench. At 62, her silver hair and grandmotherly appearance belied a razor-sharp legal mind and deep understanding of systemic corruption. She had mentored Marcus early in his career and shared his commitment to protecting children at any cost. These individuals would become unwitting players in a drama that would expose the dark underbelly of New York's child welfare system. Each brought their own motivations, wounds, and strengths to the unfolding story. Some would prove to be allies in the fight for justice, while others harbored secrets that would threaten everything Marcus and Emily were building. Their interconnected lives formed a web of relationships, each strand capable of strengthening or devastating the fragile new bond forming between a former judge and an abandoned child. As the storm that brought Marcus and Emily together continued to rage over New York City, none of them realized how their actions in the coming weeks would reshape not only their own lives but the entire system they operated within. In the complex tapestry of urban life, these supporting characters would each play crucial roles in either protecting or threatening the unlikely family forming in the heart of Manhattan. Their choices, past and future, would ripple through the lives of countless others, proving that in the fight for justice and love, no one stands truly alone. The rain intensified as Marcus approached the small figure on the bench, his judicial instincts warring with basic human compassion. Years of experience had taught him the dangers of getting personally involved, yet something about this scene demanded more than just a call to social services. Lightning illuminated the girl's face periodically, revealing a determination that belied her obvious fear. "I'm Marcus," he said softly, crouching down to her eye level while maintaining a respectful distance. "And who might you and your friend be?" He gestured to the whimpering bundle in her arms, noting how she instinctively tightened her grip on the injured puppy. The girl's eyes darted between his face and the park entrance, clearly weighing whether to trust him. "I'm Emily," she whispered finally. "And this is Max. He's hurt, but I'm protecting him." Her voice carried a strength that made Marcus's heart ache. Here was a child, soaked to the bone, more concerned with an injured animal than her own welfare. The parallels to his daughter Lily, who had once brought home every stray she found, weren't lost on him. Thunder crashed overhead, causing Emily to flinch. Marcus noticed she was shivering violently despite multiple layers of clothing. Making a quick decision, he removed his coat and held it out to her. "May I?" he asked, waiting for her nod before gently draping it around both her and Max. The coat engulfed her small frame, making her appear even tinier. As a former judge, Marcus knew the proper protocols called the police, maintain distance, wait for authorities. But the storm was worsening, and Emily's lips were taking on a bluish tinge. "There's a 24-hour veterinary clinic 2 blocks from here," he said carefully. "Would you like to get Max some help? We can talk more where it's warm and dry." Emily's eyes widened at the mention of helping Max. She studied Marcus's face intently before giving a slight nod. As they walked toward the clinic, Marcus contacted Officer Bobby Martinez, a trusted friend from the park precinct. "Bobby, I need a favor," he explained quietly, keeping pace with Emily. Full discretion required. The veterinary clinic's bright fluorescent lights revealed what the park's darkness had hidden. Emily's clothes, though layered, were worn thin. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept properly in days. Most telling was the careful way she carried herself, characteristic of children who've learned to make themselves invisible. While the veterinarian examined Max, Officer Martinez arrived in plainclothes, his gentle demeanor helping to keep Emily calm. The puppy's injuries weren't serious, a sprained leg and mild malnutrition, but required overnight observation. Emily's distress at being separated from Max provided Marcus an opening to learn more about her situation. Over hot chocolate and soup from the clinic's vending machine, Emily slowly began to share fragments of her story. Each detail confirmed Marcus's growing suspicion that this was more than a simple case of abandonment. The timing of her mother's disappearance, the careful instructions about staying in the park, the hidden birth certificate, it all pointed to something more sinister. Martinez ran Emily's information through the system, discovering her recent history in foster care and her mother's increasingly desperate attempts to maintain custody. But it was what didn't appear in the records that troubled Marcus most: missing complaints, incomplete investigations, and irregularities in placement histories that suggested systematic suppression of evidence. As the night deepened, Marcus faced a crucial decision. Protocol dictated that Emily be turned over to social services immediately. His experience, however, told him that doing so might destroy any chance of understanding what had really happened to Sarah Parker. Moreover, something in Emily's eyes when she spoke of Mummy's special friends raised red flags he couldn't ignore. "I have a spare bedroom," Marcus told Martinez quietly, watching Emily doze in a clinic chair. "And a home security system most embassies would envy." The officer studied his former judge's face, understanding the request beneath the statement. After a long moment, Martinez nodded. Some situations required bending the rules to serve true justice. By the time they left the clinic, Emily carrying a sleeping Max wrapped in clean blankets, the storm had passed. But Marcus knew they were walking into something far more dangerous than any weather system. As he helped Emily into his car, he caught a glimpse of movement in the shadows across the street, a dark sedan with tinted windows, engine idling. Someone was watching, and Marcus's instincts told him this was only the beginning. The morning after rescuing Emily brought the first wave of complications. Catherine Brooks from Child Protective Services arrived at Marcus's townhouse unannounced, her face a mask of professional concern masking obvious suspicion. "Judge Reynolds," she began, emphasizing his former title, "harboring an undocumented minor is a serious offense, even with your reputation." The implied threat wasn't subtle. Marcus had crossed paths with Brooks before, finding her to be one of the few social workers who genuinely cared about children's welfare while being frustratingly bound by bureaucratic constraints. "Emily's case requires careful handling," he responded, inviting her into his study while Emily slept upstairs. "I have reason to believe her mother's disappearance is connected to something larger." Brooks's expression shifted as Marcus shared his suspicions about the irregularities in Emily's files. The missing abuse reports, the suspicious transfers between foster homes, the pattern of documentation that seemed deliberately incomplete, it painted a disturbing picture. "If you're right," she said finally, "going through official channels could put her at risk." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion outside. A news van had parked across the street, and a reporter was already broadcasting live. "Former family court judge accused of improper relationship with abandoned child," the headline scrolled across the bottom of their van's display screen. Marcus recognized the reporter, James Wilson's niece, known for sensationalist exposes that served her uncle's political agenda. Within hours, the story had exploded across social media. Anonymous sources questioned Marcus's mental stability following his family's tragedy. Others suggested darker motivations for taking in a young girl. The Upper East Side neighbors who had once invited him to charity galas now crossed the street to avoid him. Even his regular coffee shop posted a sign reading, "We reserve the right to refuse service." Detective Laura Thompson arrived that afternoon, bringing troubling news. "The department's under pressure to investigate you," she warned. "Wilson's office is pushing for immediate removal of the child." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Marcus, there's something off about this case. Emily's mother's missing persons report was filed and deleted within hours. Someone with serious influence is pulling strings." The situation deteriorated further when Emily's first night terrors began. Her screams brought Marcus running to the guest room, where he found her tangled in sheets, crying about bad men and Mommy's scary friends. Max, still wearing his veterinary bandages, pressed against her protectively. The incident revealed another challenge. Emily's deep psychological trauma would require professional help, but involving any official channels seemed increasingly dangerous. By week's end, Marcus faced a coordinated assault on multiple fronts. His bank notified him of an audit targeting his foundation. Anonymous emails threatened to expose evidence of past indiscretions that had never occurred. The doorman reported photographers offering bribes for access to the building's security footage. Most concerning was Emily's reaction to the growing chaos. She began blaming herself, offering to leave so the bad people won't hurt you too. Her words confirmed Marcus's suspicions that she knew more about her mother's disappearance than she could safely express. During quiet moments, she would draw pictures of men in dark suits watching her old apartment, or whisper questions about whether the special friends could find her here. The pressure peaked when Catherine Brooks returned, this time officially. "They're forcing my hand," she admitted, showing Marcus the court order demanding Emily's immediate placement in a state-approved facility. "The judge who signed this owes Wilson favors. Fighting it through legal channels will take too long." Marcus studied the document, noting the facility named in the order one he'd investigated for suspected connections to child trafficking before his retirement. The pieces were starting to fit together, forming a picture more horrifying than he'd initially imagined. Sarah Parker hadn't abandoned her daughter, she'd hidden her from someone powerful enough to manipulate the entire system. As Brooks left, promising to delay filing the paperwork as long as possible, Marcus made a series of calls to former colleagues. Each conversation revealed similar patterns: missing records, buried complaints, and a consistent connection to facilities and programs overseen by Wilson's charitable foundation. That evening, as Emily helped him prepare dinner, a small routine they'd established to create some normalcy, Marcus caught her watching the news van outside. "Are they going to take me away?" she asked quietly, her small hand finding his. The question carried the weight of too many previous disappointments, too many broken promises from adults who should have protected her. Marcus knelt down, meeting her eyes with the same intensity he'd once used to deliver court rulings. "No, Emily, they're not." He chose his next words carefully, knowing they would shape both their futures. "Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking rules that protect bad people. Are you brave enough to help me fight them?" Her answer, a solemn nod worthy of a much older soul, set them firmly on a path that would challenge everything Marcus thought he knew about justice, corruption, and the true meaning of family. The pivotal moment came during Emily's fourth night at Marcus's townhouse. He found her in his study, clutching Mr. Hoppy, staring at the wall of case files and newspaper clippings from his ongoing investigation. "These other kids," she whispered, pointing to photographs of missing children, "did the special friends take them too?" Her innocent question crystallized everything. Marcus sat beside her, noticing how Max limped over to rest his head on Emily's lap. "Emily," he began carefully, "can you tell me about these special friends?" The story that followed, delivered in fragments between long silences, confirmed his worst fears. Sarah Parker hadn't just witnessed criminal activity, she'd uncovered a trafficking operation disguised as a children's charity. That same night, Marcus made 3 crucial phone calls. The first was to Judge Rebecca Walsh, who agreed to help him file for emergency temporary guardianship through unofficial channels. The second was to Detective Thompson, requesting protection details that wouldn't appear in official records. The third was to Amanda Chen at the New York Times, laying the groundwork for what might become the biggest story of her career. Morning brought Dr. Michael Bennett to the townhouse for Emily's first trauma assessment. The seasoned pediatrician's gentle approach slowly earned Emily's trust. "She's experiencing severe post-traumatic stress," he reported privately to Marcus. "But there's something else. Her reactions suggest she's been coached to hide specific information. Someone taught her to be afraid very systematically." The legal battle began in earnest when Wilson's office filed multiple motions challenging Marcus's fitness as a guardian. Each attack seemed designed to trigger public outrage Marcus's mental health following his family's death, his obsession with corruption cases, his alleged inappropriate interest in children's welfare. The media circus grew, with reporters camping outside the townhouse day and night. Emily's nightmares intensified, but now she would allow Marcus to comfort her. One particularly bad night, she finally revealed what had triggered her mother's desperate actions. "The nice lady at the charity said Mummy could get a better job," she whispered into Marcus's shoulder. But then Mummy saw the pictures of the other mummies who got better jobs. They looked scared, really scared. Marcus's decision crystallized during a late-night visit from Catherine Brooks. She arrived looking shaken, carrying a thick file. "They ordered me to destroy these," she said, handing over documents detailing suspicious patterns in child placements. "Every time we investigated certain facilities, the cases disappeared. Children disappeared," her voice cracked. "I can't be part of this anymore." The threats escalated. Marcus's home security system detected multiple attempted breaches. Anonymous notes appeared, containing photos of Emily at her new therapist's office, at the veterinary clinic checking on Max's recovery, even playing in the townhouse's private courtyard. Each carried the same message: children belong with their real families. Detective Thompson's unofficial protection detail intercepted several suspicious individuals attempting to access the building. "They're professional," she warned Marcus. "This isn't just about silencing one witness anymore. They're afraid of what Emily might have seen or heard." The breaking point came when Emily's former foster father, the one whose abuse complaint had mysteriously vanished, petitioned for custody. The man's sudden financial windfall and connections to Wilson's foundation were too blatant to ignore. Marcus knew they had to act before the corrupt system could reassert control. In his study, surrounded by evidence of a conspiracy that went deeper than he'd ever imagined, Marcus made his final decision. He would not only protect Emily, but use their situation to expose the entire network. The cost would be enormous: his reputation, possibly his freedom, certainly his safety. But looking at Emily curled up in an armchair with Max, trustingly drawing pictures of her missing mother, he knew there was no other choice. "We're going to help other kids like you," he told her that evening, as they shared hot chocolate and watched the sunset from the secure rooftop garden. "But it might get scary sometimes. Are you sure you want to stay with me?" Emily's response was to slip her small hand into his, a gesture of trust that carried more weight than any legal document. That night, Marcus began implementing a plan that would either save countless children or destroy everything he'd built. He transferred funds to secure accounts, digitized critical evidence, and activated a network of trusted allies. Emily's case would become the key to unlocking a decades-old system of exploitation. As he watched Emily finally sleeping peacefully, Max standing guard at her feet, Marcus reflected on how his life had changed in less than a week. He had started out trying to save one child, but had stumbled upon an opportunity to save many more. The path ahead was dangerous, but for the first time since losing his family, Marcus felt truly alive. He had found not just a purpose, but a daughter to protect and a battle worth fighting. Take a moment to show your support with a quick like. It helps our story reach others who might be touched by Marcus and Emily's powerful journey of hope and justice. The first breakthrough in Marcus's investigation came through an unexpected source. While reviewing Sarah Parker's employment history, Detective Thompson discovered that 6 other waitresses from the same diner had vanished over the past 18 months. All single mothers, all approached by the same charitable organization offering better opportunities. Look at this. Thompson spread photographs across Marcus's desk late one evening. Each woman disappeared exactly 2 weeks after their first contact with Hope's Haven Foundation. The foundation, ostensibly providing job training and placement for struggling single parents, was one of Wilson's most celebrated charitable ventures. Emily, playing quietly in the corner with Max, suddenly looked up at the foundation's logo displayed on Thompson's laptop. "That's the pretty building," she said softly, "where the ladies with big smiles gave mummy papers." Her casual observation sent Marcus and Thompson exchanging significant looks. The foundation's offices weren't listed in any of Sarah's known contacts. Digging deeper revealed a disturbing pattern. Hope's Haven specialized in identifying vulnerable mothers, particularly those with young daughters. They offered seemingly legitimate assistance job training, housing support, childcare, but their records showed inconsistencies. Money flowed through a maze of shell companies, eventually connecting to offshore accounts linked to known trafficking operations. Marcus enlisted Amanda Chen's investigative skills to trace the foundation's board members. "These aren't just wealthy philanthropists," she reported, showing him a complex web of connections. "They're gatekeepers. Every major city contract involving children's services goes through companies they control." The implications were staggering. The trafficking operation wasn't just exploiting the system, it was the system. The first warning came in the form of a dead bird left on Marcus's doorstep. The next day, Emily's therapist received an anonymous complaint threatening her license. Detective Thompson found her car's brake lines cut. Each threat carried the same message: stop investigating Hope's Haven. Emily proved to be an unexpected source of crucial information. During art therapy sessions, she drew detailed pictures of the foundation's offices, including secure areas not shown in public floor plans. The basement had special rooms she mentioned while coloring. Mummy saw them when she stayed late to clean. That's when she got scared. Marcus and Thompson began surveillance of the foundation's headquarters, documenting late-night deliveries and suspicious security patterns. They identified several guards with criminal backgrounds, all hired through a company owned by Wilson's brother-in-law. More disturbing were the regular visits from prominent city officials during off-hours. The operation's sophistication became clear when Marcus discovered his own home had been bugged. Professional sweeps revealed surveillance devices in his study, Emily's bedroom, even Max's collar. Someone had accessed the townhouse despite state-of-the-art security. The violation confirmed they were getting close to something big. Working with Judge Walsh, Marcus began mapping the connections between Hope's Haven and the family court system. Cases involving foundation-connected families showed consistent patterns: expedited adoptions, sealed records, missing documentation. Children placed through their programs often disappeared from the system entirely. Emily's nightmares provided additional clues. She spoke of overheard conversations, names mentioned in whispered phone calls, faces she'd seen visiting her mother's workplace. Each detail, when cross-referenced with Thompson's police database, built a clearer picture of the trafficking network structure. The investigation nearly derailed when Wilson's office launched a surprise audit of Marcus's foundation. The timing wasn't coincidental. They'd just identified a key witness, a former Hope's Haven employee willing to testify about document falsification. The witness disappeared the next day, leaving behind a hastily scrawled note: "They know everything." Marcus realized they needed to accelerate their timeline. Emily's court-mandated review was approaching, and Wilson's influence over the family court system meant they could lose everything with one unfavorable ruling. They needed concrete evidence linking Hope's Haven to the disappeared mothers. The breakthrough came from an unlikely alliance. Catherine Brooks, risking her career, provided access to sealed case files revealing a pattern of child placements through Hope's Haven-affiliated foster homes. These homes, despite numerous abuse allegations, continued receiving children thanks to Wilson's intervention. As Marcus and Thompson compiled their evidence, Emily showed increasing signs of remembering crucial details about her mother's disappearance. During a particularly difficult therapy session, she recalled overhearing a phone conversation. Mommy was crying, saying she wouldn't help them find more special girls. That's when she said we had to run. The investigation was becoming a race against time. Each day brought them closer to exposing the truth, but also increased the danger. Marcus installed additional security measures, knowing that their opponents would become more desperate as the evidence mounted. Emily, despite the growing tension, showed remarkable resilience. One evening, finding Marcus reviewing case files, she climbed into his lap with Max following faithfully. "We're going to find Mummy, right?" she asked. Her trust only strengthened his resolve to dismantle the organization that had torn her family apart. The toll of protecting Emily while investigating Hope's Haven began to manifest in unexpected ways. Marcus found himself haunted by new nightmares, where Lily and Emily's faces merged in scenes of unspeakable danger. He'd wake in cold sweats, compulsively checking the security monitors in Emily's room, where Max's steady presence provided some comfort. The public pressure intensified daily. During a rare outing to Emily's therapy appointment, they encountered a group of protesters carrying signs with slogans like "Children need mothers, not judges, and stop judicial kidnapping." Emily clutched Marcus's hand tighter, whispering, "They're like the angry people who made Mummy cry." Her words suggested Sarah had faced similar intimidation. Emily's struggles at school created another layer of complexity. Despite the private academy's discretion and security, she found it difficult to connect with other children. During a parent-teacher conference, her teacher shared concerns she spends recess watching the parking lot, marking down license plate numbers. When asked why, she says she's looking for bad men. The isolation affected them both. Marcus's former colleagues stopped returning calls. Long-standing dinner invitations were rescinded. Even his regular chess partner at the park, a retired detective, suddenly became too busy for their weekly games. The message was clear: association with Marcus had become toxic. Dr. Bennett's weekly evaluations of Emily revealed growing anxiety beneath her brave facade. "She's developing hypervigilance," he explained during a private consultation. "While her attachment to you is healthy, she's convinced that showing any vulnerability will result in separation. The trauma of losing her mother is compounded by the constant threat of losing you too." The media siege worsened when tabloids published old photos of Marcus's daughter, drawing cruel parallels between Lily's death and his obsession with Emily. The implications were devastating. Emily found one newspaper in the recycling and asked, through tears, "Am I making you sad like your real daughter?" It took hours to reassure her, highlighting the fragility of their developing bond. Financial pressures mounted as Wilson's allies targeted Marcus's assets. His foundation's donors withdrew support, citing controversy concerns. Bank loans were mysteriously called in. Even his health insurance dropped him, claiming administrative errors. The message was clear: they would strip away every resource until he surrendered Emily to the system. Max's presence became increasingly crucial for Emily's stability. The formerly injured puppy had grown into a loyal guardian, alerting them to unexpected noises and comforting Emily during her nightmares. When a particularly aggressive photographer tried to access the townhouse's back entrance, Max's warning barks gave them crucial seconds to secure the property. Marcus struggled with his own demons. Late at night, reviewing evidence of Hope's Haven's activities, he'd find himself overwhelmed by the scope of the corruption. How many other children had been trafficked while he served on the bench, missing the signs? The weight of his past blindness added to his determination to protect Emily, but also fueled crushing guilt. Their daily routine became a careful balance of normality and vigilance. Breakfast together was punctuated by security checks. Homework sessions were interrupted by calls from Detective Thompson with updates on surveillance. Even their weekend movie nights, meant to provide escape, were overshadowed by the constant presence of unmarked cars monitoring the townhouse. Emily's art therapy sessions revealed her internal battles. Her drawings evolved from simple scenes of her missing mother to complex, dark compositions featuring shadowy figures and maze-like buildings. "The special friends are everywhere," she explained while coloring a particularly disturbing piece. "But you can't see them unless you know where to look." The pressure began affecting Marcus's judgment. He caught himself jumping at shadows, seeing threats in innocent encounters. During one particularly stressful week, he nearly confronted a woman photographing Emily at the park, only to discover she was documenting her own daughter's birthday party. The incident forced him to acknowledge his growing paranoia. Their support system dwindled to a handful of trusted allies. Detective Thompson faced departmental review for her continued association with the case. Dr. Bennett received threatening letters questioning his professional judgment. Even Judge Walsh advised caution, warning that her ability to protect them legally was being systematically undermined. The breaking point came during Emily's birthday. Marcus had planned a small celebration, just them, Thompson and Dr. Bennett. As Emily blew out her candles, a brick shattered the kitchen window, missing her by inches. The attached note read, "Children belong with their real parents that night." Holding a trembling Emily as Max stood guard, Marcus realized they couldn't continue living under siege. Something had to change. The incident crystallized their reality. They were fighting not just for justice, but for survival. Emily's next words, whispered into his shoulder, captured their shared determination. "We're a real family too, aren't we?" Even if they don't think so. Her resilience, even in the face of constant threat, strengthened Marcus's resolve to find a way forward, no matter the cost. The transformation of Marcus's relationship with Emily progressed through small, significant moments amid the chaos surrounding them. Each shared meal, each bedtime story, each quiet conversation built layers of trust that gradually replaced the fear in Emily's eyes. It was during their evening ritual of hot chocolate and puzzle solving that she first called him Dad, not in a dramatic declaration, but as a natural slip that left them both frozen in surprise before sharing tentative smiles. Their breakthrough came unexpectedly during a thunderstorm that knocked out power to the townhouse. Emily, instead of retreating into panic as she had during previous storms, helped Marcus set up flashlights and build a fort in the living room. "It's like when Mummy and I played camping," she explained, arranging pillows while Max supervised. "But safer, because you have a plan for everything." Dr. Bennett noted significant progress in Emily's therapy sessions. "She's developing healthy attachment patterns," he reported, showing Marcus her recent drawings. Where once she drew herself alone or in danger, now her pictures featured a growing family herself, Marcus, Max, and notably her mother Sarah, drawn not as a ghost or distant figure, but as someone waiting to come home. Their daily routines evolved into comfortable patterns that helped both heal. Morning walks with Max became opportunities for Emily to share fragments of her past, each revelation offered with increasing confidence that Marcus would listen without judgment. She spoke of her mother's dreams for their future, of the good days before the special friends appeared, of small kindnesses remembered and treasured. Marcus learned to navigate the delicate balance between protector and parent. When Emily had questions about the investigation, he answered honestly but age-appropriately. "We're looking for people who know where your mom is," he would explain, watching her process the information. "And while we search, my job is keeping you safe and making sure you know you're loved." The townhouse transformed with Emily's presence. Her artwork appeared on the refrigerator, her books mingled with his legal texts, and her laughter increasingly frequent filled rooms that had been silent since Lily's death. Even Marcus's study, once a shrine to his investigation, now featured a small desk where Emily would do homework while he worked, their quiet companionship more valuable than words. Their bond strengthened through shared challenges. When Emily struggled with nightmares, Marcus taught her his own coping techniques: deep breathing, positive visualization, and the comfort of Max's steady presence. In return, she helped him remember joy in simple pleasures: cloud watching, sidewalk chalk art, impromptu living room dance parties. Detective Thompson observed their growing connection during her security checks. "She mirrors your expressions now," she noted one evening, watching Emily unconsciously adopt Marcus's thoughtful head tilt while examining case photos. "That's not something you can fake or force. It's pure trust." The most profound moments often came in silence. During a quiet Sunday afternoon, Emily carefully placed a framed photo of Lily on the mantel beside their own recent picture. "She's family too," Emily explained simply, leaning back against Marcus as they both studied the images. "And family stays in our hearts, even when they can't be with us." Their evening routine became sacred time. After dinner, they would sit in the rooftop garden, watching the city lights while sharing stories. Emily gradually revealed more about Hope's Haven details that helped the investigation, but more importantly, showed her growing trust in Marcus's promise to protect her. "The bad people can't get us here," she declared one night, surprising Marcus with a fierce hug. "We're stronger together." Max's role in their family unit deepened. The once injured puppy grew into a devoted guardian, instinctively positioning himself between Emily and any perceived threat. His presence helped Emily feel secure enough to sleep in her own room, though Marcus still found him making regular patrols between their doors throughout the night. Through each challenge, legal threats, media scrutiny, and constant surveillance, their bond strengthened. Emily's resilience inspired Marcus to push harder for justice, while his unwavering support gave her the security to process her trauma. They were no longer just protector and protected, but family in every way that mattered. One evening, as Marcus tucked Emily into bed, she asked the question that had lingered unspoken: "When we find Mummy, can we all be family together?" Her simple hope for the future reflected how far they'd come from a chance encounter in a stormy park to an unshakable trust that, whatever came next, they would face it together. Marcus smoothed her hair back, remembering a similar conversation with Lily years ago. "Family is built on love," he answered softly, "and there's always room for more love in our hearts." Emily's peaceful smile as she drifted off to sleep confirmed that, amid all the chaos and danger, they had built something precious and true. The breakthrough in Sarah Parker's disappearance came through a seemingly unrelated case. Detective Thompson, investigating a series of suspicious bank transactions, discovered a pattern of large withdrawals from Hope's Haven's accounts coinciding with the disappearances of single mothers. Each withdrawal was followed by deposits to offshore accounts registered to shell companies in countries known for lax trafficking laws. Amanda Chen's investigative work revealed a more sinister connection. "These aren't just random targets," she explained, spreading documents across Marcus's desk late one night. "Hope's Haven has been systematically identifying mothers with specific characteristics. Single parents, financial struggles, daughters between 4 and 6 years old. They're creating a pipeline, using the mother's desperation to access their real targets, the children." The evidence mounted through an unlikely source, the veterinary clinic where Max had been treated. The vet tech, reviewing security footage for an unrelated matter, noticed Sarah Parker in the background of a recording from the day before her disappearance. She appeared to be arguing with a well-dressed man whose face matched that of a Hope's Haven board member. Enhanced audio revealed fragments of their conversation. "You promised to leave her out of this, and they'll never find you." Emily, overhearing Marcus and Thompson discussing the footage, provided the missing link. "That's Mr. Michael," she said quietly, clutching Max closer. "He came to our apartment with the nice ladies. He said Mummy had special talents they needed." Her description matched Michael Preston, Wilson's right-hand man and the Foundation's head of special projects. Deep background checks on Preston revealed connections to similar operations in 3 other states, each shut down after suspicious deaths of potential witnesses. More disturbing were his regular meetings with family court judges who handled Hope's Haven cases. Bank records showed substantial consulting fees paid to these judges through a maze of fake companies. But Catherine Brooks brought forward more damning evidence. "I found these in sealed files," she said, hands shaking as she handed over documents. They detailed a sophisticated system of child placement, using corrupt foster homes as temporary holding stations before children disappeared into private adoption programs overseas. Sarah Parker had discovered this network while cleaning the Foundation's offices late at night. The investigation accelerated when Thompson identified a warehouse registered to one of Preston's shell companies. Surveillance showed regular nighttime activity, with luxury cars arriving and departing at odd hours. More telling were the glimpses of women being escorted inside, matching descriptions of recently disappeared mothers. Emily's therapy sessions began yielding crucial information. Through art and play therapy, she recalled overheard conversations about special shipments and overseas clients. Her drawings of the Hope's Haven offices included details of secure areas and hidden rooms that didn't appear on any official blueprints. Dr. Bennett carefully documented each revelation, building a timeline of Sarah's growing awareness and eventual panic. A former Hope's Haven security guard, racked by guilt, came forward with surveillance footage. The video showed Sarah being forced into a car the night before she left Emily in the park. More footage revealed the systematic way the Foundation groomed vulnerable families, offering help with one hand while gathering blackmail material with the other. Marcus and Thompson's investigation uncovered a vast network of corruption. Hope's Haven was merely the public face of an operation that extended into every level of city government. Wilson's charitable foundation served as a clearinghouse, using legitimate philanthropy to mask the trafficking of children and exploitation of desperate mothers. The evidence trail led to high-ranking officials in the police department, family court system, and city hall. Financial records showed millions flowing through charities connected to Wilson's foundation, each transaction carefully disguised as legitimate aid to underprivileged families. The money ultimately traced back to wealthy clients overseas who paid premium prices for special adoptions. Emily's memories, carefully drawn out through therapy, provided crucial details about the foundation's internal operations. She remembered secret rooms where mothers were interviewed, special phones that only rang at night, and conversations about boats and private planes. Each detail, when cross-referenced with shipping records and flight logs, confirmed patterns of human trafficking. The investigation reached a critical point when Marcus received an encrypted email from Sarah Parker herself. Sent through multiple proxy servers, it contained proof of life and a desperate message: they're moving us soon. Emily has the key the bunny knows. The message led to the discovery of encrypted documents hidden in Mr. Hoppy's stuffing, providing detailed evidence of Hope's Haven's criminal enterprise. Working with Judge Walsh, Marcus began building a legal case that would be impossible to suppress. They documented every connection, every transaction, every abuse of power. The evidence painted a picture of systematic exploitation that had operated unchecked for years, protected by those sworn to prevent such crimes. The truth about Sarah's disappearance finally emerged through a combination of Emily's memories, financial records, and surveillance footage. She hadn't abandoned her daughter, she had sacrificed everything to protect her. Upon discovering the true nature of Hope's Haven's operations, Sarah had gathered evidence, planning to expose them. When they discovered her actions, she had just enough time to hide Emily and her evidence before they took her. As Marcus compiled the final pieces of evidence, Emily's role in uncovering the truth became clear. Her innocent observations, combined with Sarah's carefully hidden documentation, provided the key to exposing a criminal enterprise that had seemed untouchable. The very system designed to protect children had been weaponized against them, using the desperation of mothers like Sarah to fuel a profitable trade in human misery. The warehouse surveillance finally provided the smoking gun they needed. Thompson's team, monitoring the location, documented clear evidence of human trafficking, including identified victims from multiple missing persons cases. The operation was larger than anyone had imagined, with connections to similar operations in cities across the country. The first attempt on Marcus's life came without warning. A routine morning jog through Central Park turned deadly when a black SUV mounted the sidewalk, missing him by inches. Detective Thompson's investigation revealed the vehicle had been rented using credentials stolen from a deceased Hope's Haven employee. The message was clear: they were done playing games. Emily's security became an even greater concern when Marcus discovered surveillance photos in his mailbox, images of her at school, at therapy sessions, even playing in the supposedly secure rooftop garden. Each photo carried the same message: children belong with their real families. The irony of the threat, given Hopehaven's true activities, wasn't lost on Marcus. Wilson's office launched a multi-pronged attack through the media. Anonymous sources leaked concerns about Marcus's mental stability following his family's death. Tabloids ran sensational stories suggesting inappropriate motivations for his interest in Emily's case. Even respected newspapers began questioning his methods, painting him as an obsessed vigilante rather than a protector seeking justice. The pressure intensified when Emily's school received an anonymous tip about suspicious injuries. Though Dr. Bennett quickly proved the allegations false, the mandatory investigation created a paper trail that Wilson's allies could exploit. The school, despite supporting Emily initially, began suggesting she might be better served in a more traditional environment. Marcus's financial resources came under systematic attack. Bank accounts were frozen pending routine audits, investment portfolios mysteriously lost value. Property taxes were reassessed at exorbitant rates. Even his health insurance was cancelled, citing paperwork irregularities. The strategy was clear: isolate and bankrupt him until he could no longer protect Emily. The opposition's most devastating tactic targeted Emily directly. During a therapy session, she revealed that classmates had begun asking strange questions about her mother's disappearance. Their parents, connected to Hopehaven's network, had coached them to gather information. The psychological warfare extended to the playground, where Emily faced subtle but persistent bullying. Judge Walsh brought more disturbing news: Wilson's office had filed for an emergency hearing to revoke Marcus's temporary guardianship. The petition cited new evidence of his unfitness, evidence that, upon examination, traced back to fabricated reports and coached witnesses. The legal system, meant to protect children, was being weaponized against them. A coordinated smear campaign targeted Marcus's allies. Detective Thompson faced an internal affairs investigation based on anonymous complaints. Dr. Bennett's medical license was questioned by the state board. Catherine Brooks was suspended pending an audit of her case files. One by one, their supporters were being neutralized through bureaucratic warfare. The opposition's tactics grew more aggressive when they realized intimidation wasn't working. Marcus's home security system detected multiple attempted breaches. Professional sweeps revealed sophisticated listening devices planted in Emily's toys. Even Max's new collar contained a tracking device, explaining how the surveillance photos had been so precise. Emily's nightmares returned with devastating intensity. She began drawing pictures of men in dark suits watching their house, of her mother being taken away in black cars. During one particularly difficult night, she confessed her fear: "They're going to take me away like they took Mummy, aren't they?" Her trust in Marcus remained unshaken, but her fear of the opposition's reach grew daily. The pressure peaked when Wilson's organization attempted to frame Marcus for evidence tampering. Forged documents appeared in his case files, planted by someone with access to his home office. Only Thompson's quick thinking and Brooks's testimony prevented his immediate arrest, but the incident highlighted their vulnerability. Marcus discovered that his own past was being rewritten. Old cases from his judicial career were being reopened, with evidence mysteriously surfacing to suggest bias or misconduct. Former clients were offered incentives to file complaints. Even his family's tragedy was weaponized, with suggestions that his wife's car accident hadn't been accidental at all. The opposition's reach extended to every aspect of their lives. Grocery deliveries were tampered with. Mail disappeared. Trusted employees at the townhouse were offered bribes for information. Even Emily's beloved art therapist received threatening letters, forcing her to withdraw from the case. Protection became increasingly difficult as Wilson's allies moved to isolate them completely. Marcus's security team identified multiple surveillance teams watching the townhouse. Attempts to take Emily to school or therapy appointments became complex operations requiring decoy vehicles and constantly changing routes. The psychological warfare escalated when Emily received a package at school, her mother's necklace, stained with what appeared to be blood. Though lab tests later proved the blood fake, the message devastated Emily and infuriated Marcus. The opposition was willing to traumatize a child to achieve their goals. Their enemy's most sophisticated attack came through cyber warfare. Marcus's secure communications were hacked, case files were corrupted, and fake evidence was planted on his devices. Only Amanda Chen's technical expertise prevented the complete destruction of their investigation's digital trail. As the opposition's attacks intensified, Marcus realized they were facing not just a criminal enterprise, but a deeply entrenched system of corruption. Every attempt to protect Emily or expose Hope's Haven's activities was met with increasingly desperate and dangerous resistance. The opposition's resources seemed limitless, their reach extending into every institution meant to protect children. The growing pressure revealed the true scope of their enemies' influence. From school administrators to bank managers, from police officers to healthcare providers, the opposition had allies everywhere. Each day brought new challenges, new threats, and new attempts to separate Marcus from the little girl he had sworn to protect. In response to the growing threats, Marcus began assembling a coalition of unlikely allies. His first breakthrough came through Rebecca Walsh's judicial connections, forming a secret network of honest judges who had also noticed patterns of corruption in child placement cases. They began coordinating to protect evidence and witnesses, using their authority to counter Wilson's legal maneuvers. Detective Thompson's police contacts yielded unexpected support from a specialized cybercrimes unit. Led by Technical Sergeant David Martinez, the team provided crucial protection for their digital evidence, establishing secure communications channels and helping trace the opposition's cyber attacks back to their sources. Their expertise proved invaluable in documenting Hope's Haven's digital trail. Amanda Chen's investigative journalism background connected them with a global network of reporters tracking similar trafficking operations. Working together, they began mapping the international scope of Wilson's organization, identifying patterns that local investigations had missed. The collaborative effort revealed connections to trafficking rings in Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia. Dr. Bennett introduced Marcus to Dr. Sarah Reynolds' no relation, a renowned expert in trauma psychology with experience testifying against trafficking organizations. Her insights helped build a stronger case while providing Emily with advanced therapeutic support. More importantly, her international reputation made her harder for Wilson's allies to discredit. Catherine Brooks's years in social services proved invaluable as she coordinated with honest caseworkers across multiple states. They began identifying other families targeted by Hope's Haven, creating a database of victims and witnesses. Each connection strengthened their case while providing crucial support networks for survivors. A breakthrough alliance came from an unexpected quarter Wilson's former secretary, Janet Mitchell. Troubled by years of suspicious activities, she had maintained detailed records of meetings, phone calls, and document transfers. Her evidence provided crucial timestamps and participant lists for Hope's Haven's illegal operations. Marcus's financial advisor, Michael Zhang, helped protect their resources by creating a complex network of trusts and foundations. Working with sympathetic bankers, they established secure funding channels for witness protection and evidence gathering. Their financial fortress proved resistant to Wilson's economic attacks. The alliance grew stronger when Thompson recruited Officer Bobby Martinez, who had first helped with Emily's case. His street-level contacts provided early warnings of opposition movements and helped identify surveillance teams. His presence added another layer of protection to their daily operations. Dr. Bennett's medical connections yielded support from Mount Sinai Hospital's Ethical Review Board. They began investigating suspicious patterns in medical records related to Hope's Haven cases, documenting inconsistencies that suggested systematic abuse. Their institutional backing provided crucial legitimacy to the investigation. Emily's art therapist, Lisa Cohen, connected them with a network of child advocacy groups. These organizations provided additional resources and expertise in documenting child trafficking cases. Their combined experiences helped build a comprehensive picture of Hope's Haven's methodologies. Technical support expanded through David Martinez's underground hacker contacts. These digital vigilantes, while keeping their distance, provided crucial intelligence about opposition movements and helped protect their electronic communications. Their skills proved essential in maintaining secure operations. Judge Walsh introduced Marcus to retired FBI agent Thomas Parker, who had investigated similar trafficking operations before being forced into early retirement. His expertise in building RICO cases helped them structure their evidence for maximum legal impact. His federal connections also provided additional layers of protection. The alliance's strength grew through careful compartmentalization. Each member knew only what they needed to know, protecting the overall operation if any individual was compromised. Regular security protocols, encrypted communications, and careful vetting of all contacts became standard procedure. Local business owners, remembering Marcus's fair treatment during his judicial career, formed an informal neighborhood watch. They provided early warnings of suspicious activities and helped maintain normal appearances for Emily's daily routines. Their community support proved invaluable in maintaining some normalcy. Religious leaders from various faiths joined the alliance, offering their facilities as safe meeting places and temporary shelters for witnesses. Their moral authority helped counter Wilson's attempts to control the public narrative, while their established charitable networks provided cover for witness protection activities. Former clients from Marcus's judicial days came forward with their own stories of encountering Hope's Haven's corruption. Each testimony added another piece to the puzzle, while their diverse backgrounds helped demonstrate the widespread nature of the trafficking operation. The alliance's most powerful addition came through Amanda Chen's connection to an international children's rights organization. Their resources and diplomatic connections provided crucial support for tracking Hope's Haven's overseas operations. Their involvement elevated the case from local corruption to international human rights violation. Emily's school principal, despite institutional pressure, became a secret ally. She helped protect Emily from opposition attempts to use the school system against them while documenting every suspicious interaction. Her professional reputation provided additional credibility to their evidence. Medical professionals from Dr. Bennett's network began documenting patterns of injuries in children placed through Hope's Haven-affiliated programs. Their clinical evidence strengthened the legal case while providing crucial support for victim testimony. As their alliance grew, so did their effectiveness in countering Wilson's operations. Each new member brought unique skills and resources, creating a sophisticated network capable of matching the opposition's reach. Their combined efforts began shifting the balance of power, transforming a desperate defense into a coordinated campaign for justice. The final confrontation began with a pre-dawn raid on Hope's Haven's headquarters. Detective Thompson, coordinating with trusted members of the FBI's Child Exploitation Task Force, executed simultaneous warrants at multiple locations. The timing was crucial. Their intelligence indicated plans to move several victims, including Sarah Parker, out of the country within hours. Marcus watched from a secure command center as tactical teams breached the building's seemingly legitimate facade. Emily sat beside him, clutching Mr. Hoppy, while Max maintained his protective stance. On multiple screens, years of investigation culminated in a precisely orchestrated operation. The Foundation's expensive security systems, designed to keep secrets in, proved ineffective against the concentrated force of justice. Inside the building, teams discovered hidden rooms exactly where Emily's drawings had indicated. Computer servers, despite last-minute attempts at destruction, yielded encrypted files documenting years of trafficking operations. In the basement, behind a false wall, they found a sophisticated processing center for creating false documentation, passports, birth certificates, and adoption papers for dozens of children. Wilson's reaction was swift and desperate. His legal team attempted to halt the raid with emergency injunctions, while his media allies launched a coordinated campaign questioning the operation's legitimacy. But Marcus had anticipated this. Judge Walsh had already secured federal warrants that superseded local interference, while Amanda Chen's network of journalists stood ready to counter the disinformation. The most dramatic moment came when SWAT teams breached a secure floor not shown on any official blueprints. There they found 7 women, including Sarah Parker, being held in preparation for international transfer. The women's testimony, recorded immediately by Agent Parker's team, provided devastating evidence of Hope Haven's true operations. Sarah's first words upon rescue were about Emily, confirming that her actions had always been to protect her daughter. While the raid proceeded, Marcus faced his own confrontation in an emergency court hearing. Wilson's organization had filed last-minute motions challenging everything from the search warrants to Marcus's guardianship of Emily. The proceedings turned explosive when Catherine Brooks presented documented evidence of judicial bribes, forcing several compromised judges to recuse themselves. But Emily's testimony, carefully prepared through months of therapy, proved pivotal. Speaking via closed-circuit television to protect her from intimidation, she described overheard conversations and witnessed events with remarkable clarity. Her simple, honest accounts of special friends and Mummy's scary meetings carried more weight than hours of technical testimony. The operation faced its most dangerous moment when Wilson himself appeared at the courthouse, surrounded by private security. His attempt to approach Emily was blocked by Max, whose protective growl drew security's attention. The confrontation proved fortunate. Wilson's security team was found to be carrying illegal weapons, adding federal charges to his growing list of problems. In the command center, Marcus and Thompson coordinated responses to multiple crises. Opposition forces had mobilized every available resource, from corrupt police officials attempting to interfere with evidence collection to cyber attacks on their secure communications. David Martinez's team worked frantically to maintain their network integrity while documenting each attempted breach as additional evidence. Sarah's rescue triggered another level of confrontation. Her immediate medical examination revealed evidence of systematic abuse, while her testimony opened new avenues of investigation. She described how Hope's Haven had evolved from legitimate charity to criminal enterprise, with Wilson using philanthropic connections to identify vulnerable families. The raid uncovered evidence far exceeding their expectations. Hidden financial records revealed a network extending into multiple countries. Surveillance footage documented meetings with known trafficking organizations. But most damning were recorded conversations of Wilson himself discussing merchandise and inventory terms that, in context, clearly referred to children. Emily watched the events unfold with remarkable composure, as if witnessing the resolution of a long-running nightmare. When Sarah's image appeared on one of the security feeds, Emily's quiet "Mummy's really alive" carried equal measures of relief and vindication. Her faith in Marcus had been rewarded, her memories proven true. Local news teams, alerted by Amanda Chen's network, broadcast live coverage of Hope Haven's facade crumbling literally and figuratively. The sight of federal agents escorting handcuffed executives through the Foundation's prestigious doors created images that would define the case in public memory. Marcus coordinated with Judge Walsh to process the flood of evidence according to strict protocols, ensuring nothing could be dismissed on procedural grounds. Each document, each testimony, each piece of physical evidence was catalogued and secured with unprecedented care. They had one chance to get this right, and years of preparation had taught them to leave nothing to chance. The confrontation's scope exceeded even Marcus's careful plans. As Hope Haven's security crumbled, other victims came forward. Parents whose children had disappeared through the Foundation's special adoption program provided additional testimony. The evidence painted a picture of systematic exploitation hiding behind charitable works. Sarah Parker's rescue marked only the beginning of a complex operation to free all Hope Haven's victims. Based on recovered documents, multiple sites across the city held women and children awaiting international placement. Each location required precise coordination to prevent evidence destruction or victim intimidation. The warehouse Thompson had identified proved to be a primary staging area. Tactical teams, led by Agent Parker, breached the facility during shift change when security was minimally staffed. Inside, they discovered a sophisticated processing center where victims' identities were systematically erased and replaced with false documentation. The operation had been preparing for a major shipment, providing the task force with comprehensive evidence of their methodologies. Medical teams stationed at secure facilities received the rescued victims. Dr. Bennett coordinated with trauma specialists to provide immediate physical and psychological care. Sarah's condition proved typical malnourishment, signs of physical abuse, and deep psychological trauma from months of captivity. Yet her first coherent request was to see Emily, demonstrating the resilience of maternal bonds. Emily's reunion with her mother occurred under careful medical supervision. Dr. Reynolds monitored their interaction, watching for signs of trauma triggers. The moment proved transformative. Emily's quiet, "I knew you didn't leave me," met with Sarah's tearful, "I never would." Marcus witnessed their embrace, understanding that his role would evolve but never diminish. The rescue operation expanded as evidence led to more locations. A network of safe houses, each registered to different shell companies, held victims in various stages of processing. Document trails revealed a systematic operation that had trafficked hundreds of children over several years. Each discovery added urgency to their mission while providing crucial evidence for prosecution. Thompson's team faced armed resistance at several locations. Wilson's organization had hired professional security, some with military backgrounds, to protect their operations. The confrontations required SWAT intervention, resulting in several injuries but thankfully no fatalities. Each incident documented the operation's willingness to use force to protect their criminal enterprise. Sarah's testimony proved invaluable in understanding the organization's methodology. She described how Hope Haven targeted vulnerable families, using legitimate charitable work as cover for identification and assessment. Their process was chillingly efficient, identifying families in crisis, offering help with strings attached, then using gathered information for coercion and control. The operation recovered dozens of children from various holding facilities. Each rescue required delicate handling, with child psychologists and social workers working alongside tactical teams. Many victims had been systematically conditioned to fear authority figures, making their extraction particularly challenging. Max's presence proved unexpectedly helpful, his gentle interaction with frightened children helping ease their trauma. Emily's role expanded beyond victim to advocate. Her clear recollections helped identify other children she had encountered at Hope Haven events. Through art therapy sessions, she created detailed drawings of locations and faces that proved crucial in locating additional victims. Her courage inspired other children to share their experiences, building a stronger case against the organization. International cooperation became crucial as evidence revealed Hope Haven's global connections. Interpol coordinated with local authorities to track victims who had already been transported overseas. The operation's scope demonstrated the sophisticated nature of modern trafficking networks, hiding criminal activities behind legitimate charitable work. The rescue operation faced its greatest challenge when Wilson's organization attempted to destroy evidence through a coordinated cyber attack. David Martinez's team worked frantically to protect their digital infrastructure while maintaining communication between rescue teams. Their success preserved crucial evidence while documenting additional criminal activities. Medical examinations of rescued victims revealed disturbing patterns. Dr. Bennett's team documented systematic abuse designed to create compliance through trauma. Yet they also found evidence of resistance, secret messages passed between victims, small acts of defiance that had maintained their humanity under impossible circumstances. Sarah's physical recovery progressed alongside her role in the investigation. Despite her trauma, she provided detailed testimony about Hope Haven's operations. Her account of discovering their true nature while working as a cleaner, gathering evidence at great personal risk, and ultimately sacrificing her freedom to protect Emily demonstrated extraordinary courage. The operation expanded to include financial investigations. Forensic accountants traced money flows through multiple shell companies, documenting connections between Hope Haven and international trafficking networks. Each transaction added evidence of Wilson's direct involvement while revealing the operation's vast scope. Emily and Sarah's reunion inspired other families to come forward. Parents who had lost children through Hope Haven's adoption programs provided additional testimony. Their accounts demonstrated how the organization had systematically exploited vulnerable families while maintaining a facade of legitimate charitable work. The rescue operation continued for several days, each new location adding to their understanding of Hope Haven's operations. Tactical teams maintained precise coordination, preventing evidence destruction while ensuring victim safety. Their methodical approach built an insurmountable case against Wilson's organization. As the operation progressed, Marcus witnessed the human cost of Hope Haven's crimes. Each rescued victim represented a family torn apart, trust betrayed, lives forever altered. Yet he also saw hope in the reunions, in the resilience of survivors, in the determination of those fighting for justice. The operation's success exceeded their most optimistic projections. Beyond rescuing current victims, they uncovered evidence that would help locate others who had been trafficked internationally. The documentation seized provided a roadmap for dismantling similar operations worldwide. Sarah's strength during the operation proved remarkable. Despite her ordeal, she focused on helping other victims while rebuilding her relationship with Emily. Her testimony, combined with recovered evidence, ensured Hope Haven's criminal enterprise would face full justice. Emily watched the operation unfold with growing confidence, secure in her expanded family. Marcus, Sarah, and Max creating a protective circle that would never be broken. Her journey from victim to survivor to advocate symbolized hope for all those rescued from Hope Haven's dark enterprise. The federal courthouse hummed with tension as Wilson's trial began. Security measures were unprecedented, with armed marshals positioned throughout the building and snipers on adjacent rooftops. Inside the courtroom, Marcus sat with Emily and Sarah, Max alertly positioned at their feet as years of investigation culminated in opening statements. The prosecution's case, led by a seasoned federal attorney working closely with Thompson and Marcus, methodically presented evidence of Hope Haven's criminal enterprise. Financial records revealed millions flowing through shell companies. Surveillance footage showed children being moved through secure facilities. Witness after witness described systematic exploitation hidden behind charitable works. Sarah's testimony provided the emotional core of the prosecution's case. Her calm recounting of discovering Hope Haven's true nature while working as a cleaner, gathering evidence at great personal risk, and ultimately choosing to hide Emily rather than surrender her to traffickers moved several jurors to tears. Wilson's attempts to discredit her through aggressive cross-examination only highlighted her credibility. Emily's testimony, carefully prepared through months of therapy, proved devastating to the defense. Speaking via closed-circuit television to protect her from intimidation, she described overheard conversations and witnessed events with remarkable clarity. Her simple, honest accounts of special friends and mummy's scary meetings carried more weight than hours of technical testimony. The prosecution presented evidence seized during the raid's encrypted files detailing international trafficking routes, false documentation workshops, and sophisticated money laundering operations. Technical experts demonstrated how Hope Haven had used charitable donations to mask criminal proceeds while maintaining a facade of legitimacy. Wilson's defense strategy crumbled as former associates turned state's evidence. His personal assistant detailed years of suspicious meetings and document destruction. Security personnel admitted to intimidating witnesses. Even his longtime accountant provided testimony about systematic financial fraud designed to hide trafficking proceeds. Dr. Bennett presented clinical evidence of trauma patterns among rescued victims, demonstrating systematic abuse designed to ensure compliance. His testimony, supported by medical records and psychological evaluations, established clear patterns of exploitation that directly implicated Hope Haven's leadership. Catherine Brooks's documentation of corrupted adoption processes proved crucial. Her meticulous records showed how legitimate child placement procedures had been systematically subverted to facilitate trafficking. Each case file added evidence of Wilson's direct involvement in exploiting vulnerable families. The international scope of Hope Haven's operations emerged through Interpol testimony. Agents described tracking victims across multiple countries, documenting connections to known trafficking networks. Their evidence demonstrated how Wilson had created a global enterprise hiding behind charitable works. Digital forensics, presented by David Martinez's team, revealed sophisticated efforts to conceal criminal activities. Recovered emails, encrypted communications, and financial transactions painted a picture of calculated exploitation. Each piece of evidence strengthened the connection between Wilson and international trafficking operations. The defense's attempts to suppress evidence failed as Judge Walsh systematically rejected their motions. Her careful attention to procedural details ensured that each piece of evidence would withstand appeal. The prosecution built an airtight case linking Wilson directly to trafficking operations. Amanda Chen's investigative reporting provided crucial context for the jury. Her detailed articles, published throughout the trial, helped the public understand the sophisticated nature of modern trafficking operations. Her work ensured transparency while maintaining victim privacy. But as evidence mounted, several of Wilson's co-defendants began negotiating plea deals. Their testimony revealed the full scope of Hope Haven's operations: systematic identification of vulnerable families, calculated exploitation of charitable laws, and sophisticated methods for hiding criminal activities. The prosecution's financial evidence proved particularly damaging. Forensic accountants demonstrated how Wilson had personally profited from trafficking operations while maintaining a public image of philanthropic legitimacy. Each transaction added evidence of his direct involvement in criminal enterprises. Emily watched key portions of the trial with remarkable composure, supported by both Marcus and Sarah. Her presence reminded everyone of the human cost behind the technical evidence. Her journey from victim to survivor to advocate symbolized hope for all those affected by Hope Haven's crimes. The trial concluded with overwhelming evidence of Wilson's guilt. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours before returning multiple convictions for human trafficking, money laundering, and racketeering. Additional charges ensured that key members of his organization would face significant prison terms. Judge Walsh's sentencing statement emphasized the betrayal of public trust inherent in using charitable works to mask criminal enterprises. She imposed maximum sentences, ensuring Wilson and his key associates would spend the rest of their lives in prison. Her ruling established precedents for prosecuting similar operations nationwide. The verdicts triggered international investigations into connected trafficking networks. Evidence from Wilson's trial provided roadmaps for dismantling similar operations worldwide. The case became a template for prosecuting sophisticated trafficking operations hiding behind legitimate enterprises. Sarah and Emily's courage throughout the trial inspired other survivors to seek justice. Their testimony helped secure additional convictions while providing hope for families still searching for trafficked children. Their story became a symbol of resilience and the power of truth against systematic exploitation. Marcus watched the proceedings with profound satisfaction, knowing that justice had finally been served. The sight of Wilson being led away in handcuffs represented not just the end of one criminal enterprise, but hope for systematic change in how society protects its most vulnerable members. We share these powerful stories not just to entertain, but to raise awareness about child trafficking and family justice. Your subscription helps us reach more people with these important messages. Join our community by subscribing. Together we can make these voices heard and create real change. The aftermath of Wilson's conviction brought its own set of challenges. Despite their victory, the emotional and physical toll of the long battle became evident in quiet moments. Marcus found himself experiencing delayed stress reactions, waking in cold sweats from nightmares where the rescue had failed. The weight of responsibility and constant vigilance had left deep marks on his psyche. Sarah's recovery proved particularly challenging. Though physically healing, she struggled with severe PTSD from her months in captivity. Simple activities, walking alone, entering elevators, even answering the phone, could trigger panic attacks. Dr. Bennett's therapy sessions revealed the depth of trauma she'd endured while protecting Emily from Hope Heaven's reach. Emily, despite her resilience, showed signs of lasting impact. Her heightened awareness of danger persisted. She still catalogued license plates and watched for men in dark suits. At school, she struggled to form friendships, her experiences setting her apart from peers who couldn't understand her cautious nature. Even Max maintained his protective vigilance, responding to shadows and unfamiliar sounds. Professional relationships suffered irreparable damage. Many of Marcus's former colleagues, even those not directly implicated in Hope Heaven's crimes, distanced themselves. His reputation for uncompromising pursuit of justice made others uncomfortable, aware of their own past compromises. Legal circles that had once welcomed him now viewed his presence as a reminder of systemic failures. Financial consequences mounted. The years of investigation had depleted Marcus's resources. Legal fees, security measures, and the costs of protecting witnesses had eroded his savings. Though Wilson's assets were seized, the lengthy process of restitution left many survivors, including Sarah, struggling to rebuild their lives. The media attention, though validating their fight, brought its own burdens. Every public appearance meant potential exposure to threats. Sarah and Emily's story, while inspiring others to seek justice, also made them targets for those still loyal to Wilson's network. Their lives required constant security measures, limiting normal social interactions, but personal relationships suffered under the strain. Marcus's few remaining friends struggled to understand his single-minded focus on the case. Dating became impossible with his commitment to Emily and Sarah's security. The isolation, though necessary during the investigation, had created emotional barriers that proved difficult to dismantle. The physical toll became evident in subtle ways. Marcus's premature grey hair, the deep lines around his eyes, Sarah's nervous habits, and Emily's occasional startled reactions to sudden movements all testified to their ordeal. Even Max showed signs of stress, his protective instincts permanently heightened by their experiences. Career sacrifices became apparent in the aftermath. Marcus's legal practice, neglected during the investigation, required complete rebuilding. Sarah's dreams of returning to nursing school seemed distant, her confidence shaken by months of powerlessness. Their focus on survival had put many personal goals on indefinite hold. The case had exposed the dark underbelly of charitable work, making them all cynical about accepting help or trusting institutions. Simple activities like enrolling Emily in after-school programs or Sarah seeking employment required extensive background checks and security measures. Their hypervigilance, though justified, created barriers to normal social integration. The family dynamics carried complex challenges. While their shared trauma had created strong bonds, it also complicated their relationships. Emily sometimes struggled with divided loyalty between Marcus and Sarah. Sarah dealt with guilt over her forced absence, while Marcus navigated his role as both protector and co-parent. Each had to learn new ways of relating while processing their individual traumas. The victory over Hope Haven had come at a price few could understand. Their lives, irreversibly changed, required constant adjustment to a new normal. Simple pleasures, a walk in the park, A school play, a family dinner now carried layers of security considerations and emotional complexity that others couldn't comprehend. Yet beneath these costs lay an unspoken understanding every sacrifice had been necessary, every loss worth the lives they'd saved. Their shared experience, though traumatic, had forged them into a unique family unit. The price of justice, while high, had purchased something priceless, the chance to transform tragedy into triumph, to turn their pain into protection for others facing similar battles. The journey toward healing began with small steps. Dr. Bennett designed a comprehensive therapy program that addressed their individual and collective trauma. The group sessions became a safe space where Marcus, Sarah, and Emily could process their experiences together, while individual counseling helped each navigate their personal struggles. Emily's healing started in the art therapy room, where her drawings gradually evolved from dark scenes of hiding and fear to brighter images of her expanded family. The presence of both Marcus and Sarah in these pictures, often accompanied by Max's protective figure, reflected her growing sense of security. Her nightmares, though still present, became less frequent as she learned to trust in the permanence of her new family structure. Sarah's recovery focused on reclaiming her sense of agency. Working with Dr. Reynolds, she began confronting her fears methodically. Simple acts like choosing her daily activities or making decisions about Emily's schooling helped rebuild her confidence. The support of both Marcus and Emily proved crucial, their patience and understanding creating a safe environment for her to process her trauma. Marcus found healing through action, channeling his protective instincts into creating a foundation dedicated to helping trafficking survivors. The work provided purpose while allowing him to maintain the investigative skills that had become second nature. But more importantly, it helped him process his own guilt about not recognizing similar cases during his judicial career. Family therapy sessions revealed unexpected strengths in their unconventional unit. Dr. Bennett noted how their shared trauma, while challenging, had created unique bonds of understanding. They developed their own language for discussing difficult emotions, often using references to their experiences that outsiders wouldn't understand, but that brought them closer together. Physical healing paralleled emotional recovery. Sarah's health improved with regular meals and medical care. Emily grew stronger through activities like self-defense classes, which helped her feel more in control. Even Max's protective behaviors evolved from hypervigilance to calculated watchfulness, reflecting the family's gradual relaxation. The healing process extended to their living space. Together, they transformed Marcus's townhouse from a fortress into a home. Emily's artwork brightened the walls, Sarah's cooking filled the kitchen with familiar scents, and Max's toys scattered across floors spoke of normal family life. Security measures remained, but no longer dominated their daily routines. Weekly family meetings became opportunities for sharing concerns and celebrating progress. They established new traditions, like Sunday brunches and movie nights, that helped create positive associations to replace traumatic memories. These simple routines provided structure and stability essential for healing. Dr. Bennett introduced them to other survivors' families, creating a support network that understood their unique challenges. These connections proved invaluable, offering perspectives and coping strategies from others who had walked similar paths. Emily particularly benefited from meeting other children who shared her experiences. The healing journey wasn't linear. Good days alternated with difficult ones. Triggers could appear unexpectedly: a news story about trafficking, a car similar to Wilson's, or even certain phrases could temporarily set back their progress. Yet each setback taught them resilience, strengthening their commitment to recovery. Their individual healing processes intertwined in unexpected ways. Emily's progress helped Sarah overcome her guilt, while Sarah's growing strength reassured Emily. Marcus found that supporting their recovery aided his own healing, particularly in processing the loss of his first family while embracing his new one. Through it all, Max remained a constant source of comfort and normalcy. His unconditional love and protective presence provided therapeutic benefits that complemented their professional treatment. His simple needs walks, playtime, affection helped maintain regular routines essential for recovery. The healing process, though challenging, gradually transformed their trauma bonds into chosen family ties. They learned to balance vigilance with trust, protection with independence, and past pain with future hope. Their shared journey created a resilience that would serve them well in the challenges still to come. As weeks turned into months, signs of recovery emerged in unexpected ways. Emily's laughter, once rare and tentative, began filling the house more frequently. Her drawings transformed, featuring not just her expanded family but future aspirations. She drew herself as a lawyer, helping other kids like me. The change reflected growing confidence in both her safety and her ability to shape her own future. Sarah rediscovered her passion for nursing, beginning online courses with Marcus's encouragement. Her caretaking instincts, temporarily buried under trauma, resurfaced stronger. She found purpose in volunteering at a survivors support group, where her experience helped others navigate their recovery journeys. The simple act of helping others accelerated her own healing. Marcus learned to balance protective instincts with encouraging independence. Watching Emily and Sarah grow stronger helped him process his own grief and guilt. He found joy in simple moments, helping with homework, family dinners, weekend outings that gradually felt more normal and less like security operations. His role evolved from protector to true co-parent. The family's routines shifted from survival mode to living. Their home security system remained state-of-the-art, but no longer dominated their conversations. They developed code words for comfort rather than danger, inside jokes that transformed fearful memories into shared strength. Even Max relaxed his vigilance, though he maintained his protective nature. Professional success followed personal healing. Sarah excelled in her nursing studies, her experience bringing unique insight to patient care. Marcus's foundation grew, attracting support from legitimate philanthropists committed to fighting trafficking. Emily's school performance improved as she felt secure enough to focus on learning rather than scanning for threats. Their story inspired others, though they shared it selectively. Sarah spoke at carefully chosen events, helping law enforcement understand trafficking from a survivor's perspective. Marcus advised other jurisdictions on investigating similar cases. But Emily, through art therapy, created powerful messages about resilience that helped other children process trauma. Family bonds strengthened through shared recovery. They celebrated small victories: Sarah's first solo grocery trip, Emily's school presentation, Marcus learning to truly relax during movie nights. Each milestone marked progress from survival to living, from victims to survivors to thrivers. Their unique family unit became a source of strength rather than a reminder of trauma. The healing extended to their community connections. Trusted neighbors became true friends, their children learning to play with Emily without triggering her defenses. Sarah built relationships with other nursing students, while Marcus reconnected with honest colleagues from his judicial days. Their circle widened cautiously but steadily. Emily's recovery showed in subtle ways. She began leaving her bedroom door open at night, participated eagerly in school activities, and made her first close friend. Her therapist noted how she spoke about the future with excitement rather than fear. Even her relationship with Max evolved, their bond based on companionship rather than just protection. The family developed healthy ways to process lingering anxiety. Regular exercise, meditation sessions, and open communication replaced hypervigilance. They learned to distinguish between reasonable caution and trauma responses, developing tools to manage triggers without letting them control their lives. Their recovery journey became a blueprint for other survivors. Dr. Bennett incorporated their experiences into training programs for trauma specialists. Their success demonstrated how proper support could transform victims into advocates, fear into strength, and trauma into wisdom. The most profound sign of recovery emerged in their ability to hope. They began planning for the future family vacations, career goals, Emily's college fund. These plans, once unthinkable, now felt achievable. Their shared trauma had forged them into a family united not just by experience but by choice and love. Max, ever faithful, reflected their recovery in his own way. His alert but relaxed presence during family outings, his gentle playfulness with Emily's friends, and his calm acceptance of new people in their lives showed how far they'd all come. His adaptation mirrored their own journey from constant fear to cautious optimism. The revelation came through an unexpected source. Amanda Chen, following digital breadcrumbs from Wilson's seized devices, discovered encrypted files that pointed to an even larger conspiracy. Hope Haven had been merely one node in a global network of seemingly legitimate charities, all connected through a labyrinth of shell companies and offshore accounts. The evidence revealed that Wilson's operation extended far beyond child trafficking. His foundation had served as a testing ground for a sophisticated system of social exploitation, targeting not just vulnerable families but manipulating entire communities. But the charitable programs, while providing some legitimate services, were designed to identify and isolate potential victims while building political protection through carefully cultivated relationships. Detective Thompson's investigation into the financial records exposed connections to prominent figures across multiple countries. High-ranking officials, celebrated philanthropists, and respected community leaders had knowingly or unknowingly facilitated the network's operations. Each layer of discovery revealed new depths of systemic corruption. Emily's art therapy sessions unexpectedly provided crucial insights. Her drawings of the special rooms at Hope Haven matched architectural plans for similar facilities in other cities. The pattern suggested a standardized approach to trafficking operations disguised as charitable outreach centers. Her innocent observations had captured details that adults might have overlooked. Sarah's recovered memories, triggered by the new evidence, filled in critical gaps. The job training she'd been offered had been a recruitment test, evaluating her potential usefulness to the organization. Her resistance had marked her as a threat, leading to her targeted surveillance and eventual abduction. The pattern matched other cases across multiple jurisdictions. Marcus found himself confronting an uncomfortable truth. Several of his former judicial colleagues had unwittingly participated in the scheme, their decisions influenced by carefully crafted legal precedents and manipulated evidence. The network had systematically corrupted legal systems, creating pathways for trafficking that appeared legitimate on paper. The investigation revealed sophisticated methods of victim selection. Hope Haven's intake procedures, disguised as charitable assistance, had gathered detailed psychological profiles of vulnerable families. This data helped the organization identify not just potential victims but also those likely to resist or expose their operations. Digital forensics uncovered an artificial intelligence system designed to analyze charitable donations, identifying wealthy contributors with specific interests in private adoptions. The technology had automated the process of matching victims with buyers while maintaining a facade of legitimate philanthropic work. The network's reach extended into unexpected areas. Religious organizations, educational institutions, and healthcare facilities had been unknowingly co-opted into the scheme. Each discovery forced a re-evaluation of trusted systems and institutions, revealing how thoroughly the corruption had penetrated society's support structures. Emily's nightmares took on new significance as details emerged. Her descriptions of overheard conversations matched known trafficking routes and methodologies. The special friends she'd mentioned were identified as key operators in the network, their seemingly innocent visits to Hope Haven masking sinister purposes. Sarah's cleaning job at Hope Haven had placed her in a unique position to observe the organization's operations. Her testimony, combined with newly discovered evidence, revealed how the foundation had maintained two parallel operations, one public and charitable, the other hidden and criminal. The sophistication of this deception exceeded initial estimates. The investigation uncovered a pattern of systematic intimidation extending far beyond individual threats. The network had developed complex methods for silencing potential whistleblowers, using everything from financial pressure to manipulated legal proceedings. Their techniques had created an atmosphere of helplessness that discouraged resistance. Max's presence during the investigation proved unexpectedly significant. His reactions to certain visitors and locations had inadvertently identified persons of interest. The instincts that had led him to protect Emily had also marked those who posed genuine threats, providing another layer of validation to their findings. The scope of the conspiracy forced a re-evaluation of Marcus's Foundation's mission. The challenge wasn't just rescuing trafficking victims, but dismantling a system designed to exploit society's most vulnerable members. Each revelation added urgency to their work while highlighting the complexity of true reform. The truth about Hope Haven's operations revealed sophisticated methods of psychological manipulation. Victims were systematically isolated through seemingly helpful programs that actually increased their dependency on the organization. This understanding helped explain why many families had struggled to recognize or resist the danger until it was too late. The investigation exposed how legitimate charitable work had been used to mask criminal operations. Real assistance programs ran alongside trafficking operations, creating confusion and providing plausible deniability. This dual nature had made it difficult for authorities to distinguish between genuine charity and criminal enterprise. But as the full scope of the conspiracy emerged, Marcus, Sarah, and Emily found their roles shifting. Their personal story became a key to understanding how the network operated and why it had remained hidden for so long. Their experience provided a template for identifying and exposing similar operations worldwide. The revelation of Hope Haven's true nature sent shockwaves through the international community. Amanda Chen's comprehensive expose, published simultaneously in major newspapers worldwide, triggered immediate public outrage. The story combined hard evidence with personal narratives, including carefully anonymized accounts from Emily and Sarah, creating a compelling narrative that demanded action. Social media erupted with survivor stories as others recognized patterns from their own experiences with seemingly legitimate charities. The hashtag #HopeHavenTruth began trending globally, creating a virtual support network for victims while exposing similar operations in other cities. The public response forced authorities worldwide to re-examine cases previously dismissed as isolated incidents. Policymakers faced intense pressure for reform. Congressional hearings, initiated in response to the scandal, revealed systemic failures in charitable oversight. Marcus testified before several committees, his experience as both a former judge and foundation director lending weight to calls for stricter regulations. His testimony helped shape new legislation designed to prevent similar exploitations. The media coverage evolved from sensational headlines to serious investigative journalism. News organizations, following Amanda Chen's lead, began examining their own communities for signs of similar operations. The resulting stories revealed how trafficking networks had adapted to modern society, using technology and legitimate businesses as cover for their activities. Educational institutions responded by developing new training programs for social workers, law enforcement, and judicial officers. Dr. Bennett's insights into trauma patterns became part of standard curricula, while Sarah's experience informed new protocols for identifying potential trafficking operations. The academic response helped systematize the lessons learned from Hope Haven's exposure. The philanthropic sector underwent massive reform. Legitimate charities, eager to distance themselves from Hope Haven's model, implemented stringent transparency measures. But Marcus's foundation helped develop new standards for charitable operations, emphasizing accountability and protection for vulnerable populations. The industry's self-regulation exceeded government requirements. But law enforcement agencies worldwide adopted new investigation protocols based on the Hope Haven case. Detective Thompson's methodical approach to gathering evidence became a model for similar investigations. The emphasis on digital forensics and financial tracking helped identify and dismantle other trafficking networks using charitable fronts. The public health sector recognized trafficking as a major health crisis. Sarah's nursing studies included new courses on identifying and supporting trafficking victims, while hospitals implemented screening protocols based on patterns identified in the Hope Haven. The medical community's response helped create another layer of protection for vulnerable populations. Emily's school experience influenced educational policy reforms. New guidelines helped teachers identify potential trafficking risks while supporting students from traumatic backgrounds. The education system's response included both preventive measures and support services for affected families. Emily's resilience became an inspiration for other children recovering from similar experiences. Religious communities, shocked by their unwitting involvement in trafficking networks, developed new safeguards for their charitable operations. Faith-based organizations worked with Marcus's foundation to create guidelines for protecting vulnerable populations while maintaining their humanitarian missions. The spiritual community's response helped bridge gaps in social services. The business community faced increased scrutiny of their charitable giving. Corporate foundations implemented rigorous vetting procedures for recipient organizations. The private sector's response included funding for anti-trafficking initiatives and support for survivor rehabilitation programs. Their involvement brought significant resources to reform efforts. Local communities developed neighborhood watch programs specifically focused on identifying trafficking indicators. The grassroots response included education initiatives, support networks for vulnerable families, and cooperation with law enforcement. Community engagement helped create a more comprehensive safety net for potential victims. The international response included new treaties and cooperation agreements focused on tracking and preventing trafficking operations. Diplomatic efforts, inspired by Hope Haven's exposure, led to improved information sharing between countries. The global community's response helped close loopholes that trafficking networks had exploited. Technology companies developed new tools for identifying suspicious patterns in charitable operations. Digital security measures, inspired by lessons from Hope Haven's sophisticated systems, helped protect vulnerable populations online. The tech sector's response included both preventive measures and support for investigations. The cultural impact extended beyond immediate policy changes. Documentary filmmakers, authors, and artists began exploring themes of institutional exploitation and resistance. Their work helped maintain public awareness while promoting understanding of trafficking's complex nature. The artistic response helped process collective trauma while inspiring continued vigilance. The public impact of Hope Haven's exposure created lasting changes in how society approaches child protection and charitable oversight. The case became a reference point for discussing institutional accountability and the importance of systematic safeguards. Its influence continued to shape public policy and social responses to trafficking threats. Marcus, Sarah, and Emily's story became a powerful symbol of both institutional failure and human resilience. Their experience helped others understand how trafficking operations exploit social systems while demonstrating the possibility of recovery and justice. Their impact extended far beyond their personal victory, inspiring systemic changes that would protect future generations. The process of building their new family structure required careful navigation. Marcus, Sarah, and Emily faced the unique challenge of blending their individual traumas and healing processes into a cohesive unit. Dr. Bennett helped them develop frameworks for communication that acknowledged their shared experiences while respecting their individual journeys. Their living arrangements evolved organically. Marcus's townhouse, once a fortress of security measures, transformed into a true home that balanced safety with warmth. Sarah and Emily initially occupied the guest wing but gradually spread their presence throughout the house. Personal touches: Emily's art, Sarah's cooking equipment, Max's designated spots marked their transition from temporary refuge to permanent home. parenting responsibilities developed through open discussion and natural inclination. Sarah maintained primary maternal authority while accepting Marcus's established bond with Emily. Marcus learned to step back when appropriate, supporting rather than directing family decisions. Their cooperative approach helped Emily feel secure in both relationships without feeling torn between them. The dynamic between Marcus and Sarah grew into a deep friendship based on mutual respect and shared purpose. Their relationship, initially centered on Emily's welfare, expanded to include genuine care for each other's well-being. They developed an easy partnership in daily life, their different strengths complementing each other in creating a stable home environment. Emily's relationship with both adults flourished under their conscious effort to avoid competition for her affection. She learned to seek different types of support, from each turning to Sarah for emotional comfort and historical connection, to Marcus for protection and guidance about the future. Their distinct roles gave her a fuller sense of family support. Max adapted to the expanding family dynamic with characteristic intelligence. His protective instincts extended to include Sarah, while maintaining his special bond with Emily. His presence often helped ease tensions during difficult conversations, his calm energy helping the family remain grounded in challenging moments. The family established new traditions that honored both their past and present. Sunday brunches became a time for sharing memories of life before Hope Haven while creating new ones. Holiday celebrations incorporated elements from both Sarah's family traditions and Marcus's memories of celebrations with Lily, creating unique blended customs that belonged solely to their new unit. Professional boundaries required careful consideration. Marcus's foundation work and Sarah's nursing studies sometimes intersected with their personal history. They developed guidelines for discussing work-related topics at home, ensuring Emily wasn't overwhelmed by reminders of their shared trauma while remaining honest about their ongoing mission to help others. Their approach to Emily's education reflected their collaborative parenting style. Sarah handled daily school interactions, while Marcus managed security considerations. They attended parent conferences together, presenting a united front that helped teachers understand Emily's unique needs while maintaining appropriate privacy about their background. The family's social life expanded cautiously. They developed friendships with other families who understood their need for discretion without requiring detailed explanations. Social gatherings were carefully planned to ensure everyone's comfort level, with Max's reactions often serving as an additional security measure. Financial arrangements evolved to reflect their permanent family status. Marcus established trust funds for both Emily and Sarah, ensuring their long-term security while respecting Sarah's growing independence. Their approach to money emphasized stability and shared resources while maintaining appropriate boundaries. The healing process brought unexpected moments of joy as they discovered shared interests and compatible quirks. Emily's artistic talents echoed both Sarah's creativity and Marcus's attention to detail. Their collective sense of humor developed its own rhythm, inside jokes and shared references marking their growing intimacy as a family unit. Physical spaces within the home reflected their evolving relationships. The kitchen became Sarah's domain, while Marcus's study transformed into a shared workspace. Emily's art room served as a bridge between private and communal spaces, its open-door policy symbolizing the family's commitment to accessibility and support. Their communication style grew more nuanced as they learned each other's cues and triggers. They developed shorthand phrases for expressing needs or concerns, making it easier to navigate potentially difficult topics. This emotional vocabulary helped them maintain honesty while respecting each other's boundaries. The foundation of their family unit rested on a shared understanding that their bond was chosen rather than imposed. Each member actively participated in building and maintaining their relationships, creating a dynamic that drew strength from their individual choices to remain connected. This conscious commitment gave their family unique resilience and depth. The integration of their past experiences into their present life required ongoing attention. They learned to acknowledge both the trauma that brought them together and the healing that kept them united. Their family narrative encompassed both pain and redemption, creating a story that honored their journey while celebrating their current joy. Through these careful negotiations and natural developments, they created a family structure that defied conventional definitions while meeting their deepest needs for connection and security. Their success in building this unconventional but strong unit became both a personal triumph and a model for other families formed through trauma and recovery. The legal victory over Hope Haven marked the beginning rather than the end of their journey. Marcus's foundation evolved into a powerful force for change, combining legal advocacy with practical support for trafficking survivors. The organization's success drew support from legitimate philanthropists worldwide, creating a network of resources for families recovering from similar traumas. But Sarah's graduation from nursing school coincided with the opening of a specialized clinic for trafficking survivors. Her unique perspective as both a healthcare provider and survivor made her an invaluable resource in developing treatment protocols. The clinic, partially funded by Marcus's foundation, became a model for similar facilities nationwide, combining medical care with comprehensive support services. But Emily's transition from survivor to advocate happened gradually and on her own terms. Her artwork, initially created as therapy, developed into powerful educational tools used in training programs for law enforcement and social workers. At 13, she gave her first public speech at a conference on child protection, her quiet strength touching hearts and changing minds. The family story inspired systemic changes in child protection services. Their experience highlighted the need for better coordination between agencies and more thorough vetting of charitable organizations. New legislation, dubbed Emily's Law, established stricter oversight of organizations working with vulnerable children while providing better support for families at risk. Max, now a certified therapy dog, worked alongside Sarah at the clinic, helping other survivors feel safe during treatment. His journey from injured puppy to healing helper became part of their family's narrative of transformation. His presence continued to provide comfort and security, particularly during Emily's occasional public appearances. Detective Thompson's promotion to head of a new anti-trafficking task force reflected the increased priority given to investigating similar cases. Her unit, working closely with Marcus's foundation, developed sophisticated methods for identifying and dismantling trafficking operations disguised as legitimate charities. Their success rate became a benchmark for departments nationwide. The townhouse transformed from a fortress into a beacon of hope. Regular support group meetings in their home helped other survivors see possibilities for healing and growth. The security systems remained state-of-the-art, but their purpose shifted from protection to prevention, creating a safe space for recovery and renewal. Professional recognition came in unexpected forms. Sarah received awards for her innovative approach to trauma-informed nursing care. Marcus's legal strategies became case studies in law schools. Emily's art therapy programs were adopted by treatment centers across the country. Their individual successes strengthened their collective impact. The Foundation's international reach expanded through careful partnerships with vetted organizations worldwide. Each new connection expanded their ability to help others while maintaining the high standards of accountability they'd learned were crucial. Their network became a trusted resource for families seeking assistance and authorities investigating suspicious operations. Local community involvement deepened through educational initiatives and prevention programs. The family's experience helped shape realistic approaches to protecting vulnerable populations while building stronger community bonds. Their story demonstrated how individual action could catalyze broader social change. Family celebrations took on new significance as they marked milestones in their journey. Emily's academic achievements, Sarah's professional success, and Marcus's continued advocacy work created regular occasions for joy and reflection. Each celebration reinforced their bonds, while highlighting their growth from victims to champions of change. The resolution of their story came not in dramatic moments but in quiet victories. Emily sleeping peacefully through the night, Sarah confidently presenting at medical conferences, Marcus finding joy in simple family moments rather than just purpose in protection. Their healing became a testament to the power of love and determination in overcoming trauma. Through it all, they maintained their unique family bond, strengthened by shared purpose and deepened by continued growth. Their resolution wasn't about forgetting the past, but about transforming it into fuel for positive change. Their story became proof that justice, while sometimes slow, could lead to transformation and healing. Emily's transformation was perhaps the most remarkable. The frightened child from the park blossomed into a confident teenager who channeled her experiences into art and advocacy. Her paintings, once dark expressions of fear, evolved into powerful statements of hope and resilience. At school, she emerged as a quiet leader, helping other students understand complex issues like trafficking and child protection without overwhelming them with her personal story. Sarah discovered strength she never knew she possessed. Beyond completing her nursing degree, she developed specialized programs for treating trauma survivors. Her approach, combining medical expertise with deep empathy born of experience, revolutionized how healthcare providers interacted with trafficking victims. She found her voice as both a healer and an advocate, teaching medical students about the subtle signs of trafficking while maintaining her own emotional boundaries. Marcus's growth manifested in his ability to balance protection with trust. The hypervigilant former judge learned to enjoy simple pleasures again: family dinners, weekend outings, even occasional vacations. His foundation work remained important, but it no longer consumed him. He found joy in watching Emily's school performances and celebrating Sarah's achievements, learning to be present in moments rather than always scanning for threats. Max's evolution paralleled the family's healing. While maintaining his protective instincts, he developed an uncanny ability to sense when each family member needed comfort rather than protection. His presence at therapy sessions and public events provided silent support, his calm demeanor helping others feel safe enough to begin their own healing journeys. The family unit grew stronger through individual development. They learned to celebrate personal achievements while supporting each other through setbacks. Family therapy sessions evolved from processing trauma to planning futures, their discussions focusing more on dreams and aspirations than past fears. Their home reflected their collective growth. Emily's art studio became a space for creativity rather than just therapy. Sarah's study, filled with medical textbooks and research papers, represented her professional development. Marcus's office, once dominated by case files, now displayed family photos alongside his advocacy work. Professional accomplishments merged with personal healing. Emily's art therapy programs helped other children process trauma. Sarah's clinic protocols became standard practice in treating trafficking survivors. Marcus's legal reforms protected vulnerable families while empowering communities to recognize and prevent exploitation. Their individual growth strengthened their unique family dynamic. They developed healthy ways to maintain independence while remaining deeply connected. Each member pursued personal interests and goals while contributing to their shared mission of helping others heal from similar trauma. The process of growth involved learning new ways to relate to the world. Emily discovered healthy friendships with peers who didn't need to know her full story. Sarah built professional relationships that respected her boundaries while valuing her expertise. Marcus found balance between vigilance and openness, allowing new people into their lives with careful consideration rather than automatic suspicion. Their collective resilience emerged through individual healing. Each family member developed personal coping strategies while maintaining their supportive network. They learned to recognize signs of stress in each other and provide appropriate support without becoming overprotective. The transformation from victims to survivors to advocates happened gradually, marked by small victories and personal breakthroughs. Emily's first solo art show, Sarah's graduation speech, Marcus's ability to delegate foundation work. Each milestone represented growth, not just for the individual but for the family unit. Their story of personal growth inspired others to believe in the possibility of healing. Through carefully chosen public appearances and private mentoring, they showed other survivors that trauma need not define their futures. Their individual journeys, while unique, provided hope and practical guidance for others seeking their own paths to recovery. Their growth continued, not in dramatic leaps but in steady steps forward. Each day brought new opportunities to choose trust over fear, hope over desperation, and love over loss. Their individual strengths combined to create a resilient family unit that stood as testament to the power of personal transformation and collective healing. The family's legacy extended far beyond their personal story. Emily, now entering high school, began mentoring younger survivors through art therapy programs. Her gentle guidance and quiet strength helped other children find their voices through creative expression. Her own artwork, displayed in galleries and advocacy centers, spoke to both the darkness of trafficking and the light of recovery. Sarah's clinic expanded into a comprehensive healing center, combining medical care with psychological support and practical assistance. Her innovative approach to trauma-informed care attracted healthcare providers from around the world, eager to learn her methods. The center became a beacon of hope, showing how survivors could transform their experiences into tools for helping others. Marcus's foundation evolved into an international network of support and advocacy. Working closely with law enforcement and social services, they developed sophisticated systems for identifying and preventing trafficking operations. Their success inspired similar programs worldwide, creating a global safety net for vulnerable families. The future held new challenges and opportunities. Emily's college applications focused on programs combining art therapy with child advocacy. Her personal statement, carefully crafted to protect privacy while sharing her mission, caught the attention of prestigious universities. Scholarship offers poured in, recognizing both her academic achievements and her commitment to social justice. Sarah's research into trauma recovery led to groundbreaking treatments combining traditional medicine with holistic healing approaches. Her work, published in leading medical journals, changed how the healthcare system approached trafficking survivors. Future plans included expanding the clinic model to underserved communities, bringing hope to areas most vulnerable to exploitation. Marcus found unexpected joy in stepping back from daily foundation operations, focusing instead on mentoring the next generation of advocates. His experience and wisdom guided young lawyers and social workers passionate about fighting trafficking. The Foundation's future leadership reflected his belief in combining professional expertise with personal commitment. Their home remained a sanctuary, not just for their family but for others seeking healing. Regular gatherings brought together survivors, advocates, and supporters, creating networks of hope and practical assistance. These connections promised future collaboration and continued progress in the fight against trafficking. Max's legacy lived on through a specialized therapy dog program at Sarah's clinic. Trained dogs, following his example, helped survivors feel safe during treatment. The program's success led to similar initiatives nationwide, recognizing the unique comfort animals could provide in healing environments. Emily's art therapy methods became part of standard treatment protocols for young trauma survivors. Future plans included developing digital platforms to reach children in remote areas, ensuring access to healing resources regardless of location. Her work promised to touch countless lives, offering hope through creative expression. The family story inspired positive changes in child protection policies worldwide. Their experience informed new legislation, improved enforcement methods, and better support systems for vulnerable families. Future generations would benefit from stronger safeguards against exploitation and more effective response systems. Sarah's clinic model attracted international attention, leading to partnerships with healthcare providers globally. plans for satellite facilities in multiple countries promise to extend their reach, bringing hope and healing to communities previously lacking resources. Each new location represented future possibilities for survivors seeking recovery. Marcus's legal reforms continued shaping future protection systems. His experience informed policy changes, enforcement strategies, and support programs for families at risk. The Foundation's influence promised lasting impact on how society approached child protection and survivor support. And their collective future focused on expanding hope while maintaining personal balance. Family time remained sacred, even as their influence grew. Weekend traditions, holiday celebrations, and quiet moments together grounded them in the present while planning for tomorrow. Emily's upcoming college choice would mark a new chapter, but family bonds remained strong. Technology would keep them connected during her studies, while holiday breaks promised joyful reunions. Her future career plans included returning to work with the Foundation, continuing their shared mission. Hope for the future extended beyond their immediate family. Each survivor they helped, each policy they changed, each life they touched created ripples of positive change. Their story demonstrated how tragedy could transform into triumph, pain into purpose, and fear into future hope. Their legacy promised continued impact through generations. The systems they built, the changes they inspired, and the hope they kindled would benefit countless families facing similar challenges. The future held not just promise but proof that healing was possible and positive change achievable. Your support means everything to our dedicated team. If this powerful story of justice, family, and healing touched your heart, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and share it with those who might find hope in Marcus, Emily, and Sarah's journey. Every like, comment, and share helps spread this important message further. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Should we continue their story? Let us know if you'd like to see part 2, where we explore the family's ongoing mission to protect others from similar tragedies. Together, we can make a difference in raising awareness about these crucial issues.